we've got this thing called electricity. But where exactly does electricity come from? What is it? And electricity is something that we've become reliant on. We've become so reliant on it, we're not free. If electricity goes, we go. We can't have a life without it. We've become reliant on it. In the same way, in the beginning, when you had people on the farm, well, you had people that living in the country, people that were nomads. When people in the nomads became farmers, I doubt very much they retained those skills that they once had, which allow them to fight, to hunt, to kill wild animals, to build shelters, to live. The hardships on their bodies that nature doled out. Once they became farmers, once they became, let's say, civilized, they stayed in one place. I wonder if their bodies could withstand that. So somebody that lives in the jungle, they live under the canopy, they're always having mosquitoes attacking them, they're having to look for water, walk large distances. When they become farmers, they lose, I would have thought, a lot of that strength. When the farmers then become city people, the city people lose that strength of the farms. In the city, water comes out of a tap. You don't have to lift things, you don't have to walk large distances. You become, in effect, let's say, a little bit more lazier, more accustomed. And now we've got electricity in those cities, and we have become reliant on that. In the same way the nomad became reliant on the farms, in the same way the farmer became reliant on the city, now the city people are reliant on the electricity. So what is electricity? Well, Prometheus gave fire to humans. So that fire came from the gods, but fire creates electricity. And there are two types of light, if you like. There's the light which comes from the sun, which is sort of like a celestial light. There's actually more than two types. Then there's the light that comes from the invisible realms. You hear people say, I've seen the light, go towards the light. That's a different type of light. Then you have the celestial light, which is the sun. And then you have light which electricity makes. And you could say electricity is a false type of light. If you look at Lucifer, Lucy is light, isn't it? In Spanish or French, light is luz. So you could say it's a cipher of light. You can say that the devil was the person that gave light to humans, but not the light of God, but a false light. And now we've built up our world on this false light. This false light gives us information. It doesn't give us wisdom, it gives us information. Wisdom, as far as I'm concerned, is the mergence of the mysteries and the information. The mysteries, things like the other worlds, the invisible worlds, things like loyalty, bravery, kindness, the ability to interact with nature. And nature is a poem. Nature, what lies behind nature, is an entire universe. It's not this green stuff around us. The green stuff around us is what we see, but we don't know who the architects of that green stuff is. Who are the architects of the universes, of those Fibonacci sequences which display themselves in galaxies and stars when they disperse? Who are these people? Who are the architects of the trees, of the animals, of the minerals, of the chemistry? Or who are the architects of this dimension? Even in the Bible it says the gods. It doesn't refer to it singular, it refers to it plural. So there were many people that made this universe, or what we understand the universe to be. And so light or electricity, the false light, gives us an ability to have knowledge. But we seem not to be able to cope with this newfound knowledge, this occult knowledge. We seem to destroy the world with it. This electricity, this false light, it's changed us, it's changed our values, it's changed our morals. Once upon a time we lived in communities. We lived in communities and we looked after one another. We looked in communities and we had family. Now we don't treat family very well. Once upon a time, we've never really treated family that way. There's always been problems if you go back to the Greeks and the Romans of rebellion. But if you look more or less at the indigenous, you look more or less at native people before the advent of money, more or less the family structure was quite good. There were some exceptional cases where people were pushed out of the tribe, but that was very exceptional and it happened very rarely. But generally we've always looked after our parents and our community. except for some occasions, and now we treat them very badly. The same with nature. With nature, we used to treat nature very well. Now we treat nature very badly. We abuse nature, and we abuse nature with electricity. It's electricity which is causing us, it is the mass amount of information which has given us power and the separation from the mysteries. Those mysteries were separated roughly in about 1700 when there was the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment basically was the ruling power at that time was the church, was the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church was saying, look, science is according to the Bible, when obviously it wasn't. And the scientists couldn't move forward. So there was a split. And the split was a detachment of science and religion. Most of those scientists didn't actually want to split science and religion. If you look at the alchemists were probably the forefathers of modern science, but they were still heavily spiritual people. They saw science as a spiritual thing. So this false light that we have now, this false light has changed the way we live. It's actually given us a false life. The false light has given us a false life. And we have based our entire lives on it, our economies, our work. When the sun goes down, if you think about it this way, nature is where one of the real lights is from. That's the sun and the moon. When the sun and the moon go, we turn on the fake light, and the fake light resumes the world or the universe that we want. In fact, it superimposes itself over the harmonies of nature. At night, we have the moon, which is a light from the sun. In the day, we have the sun. When the sun goes down, we go to bed. When the moon goes down, we get out of bed. Now, when the sun goes down, we carry on as if the sun was still there. If you like, electricity has allowed the continuation of the sun, a false continuation of the sun, to carry out duties to take us out of the natural harmony. Electricity has taken us out. Electricity has taken us out of the natural harmony and rhythms that we have. And our natural rhythms and harmony are very important because it puts us into the cycles and the patterns of nature. And what nature is, as I said before, is not green trees and animals and plants. There is a universe behind that, a universe of light. We see the earth, but we only see it with the eyes that we have, which is a very light. The light that we see is a very small percentage of the spectrum. When you, for instance, take plant medicine, your ability to see the different lights comes along. You can see things which other people can't see. And that world, which is spurned by nature, is a world of light, is a world of the dead, is a world of where the dead are actually more alive than the alive are, because we, as we progress through life, seem to be pretty dead, like zombies. So nature is a poem. What is a poem? A poem is just an abstraction of a very large idea that you need to unlock. It's something which touches the mysteries. It's something which touches the unseen in a very beautiful way. It's something which gives us a message. And nature is here for us to carry on our purpose on earth, whatever that is. But our purposes on earth used to be something which was internal. The light of the sun and the moon allows internal understanding. We contemplate, we look, we dance, we are with our families. These are internal emotions. These are when we are with the community. External light, like electricity, builds everything around us. Builds the cars, the lights, builds the lampposts, the machines, the dishwasher. It creates an external universe. And what it does is it takes away our internal reflections and makes us concentrate on the physical external world, which isn't really real. In fact, it's a little bit of a lie. In fact, when you go into the spiritual realms, those machines don't exist. They have different machines, but nothing like these physical contraptions, which are so many light years behind what they've got. And we get attached to this false light, this physicality of light, if you like, because when you make a machine is an object, and the object's 99% empty if you look at the atoms inside. But we start to create attachments to this world, and these attachments to the world take away from our investigations into the other worlds, which happens when we are in a cycle with with nature, with the moon, with the sun, which are the lights that I'm talking about, the moon being a reflection of the sun, obviously. And I wonder if it would be better if we try to understand, how do we judge humanity? If we are judging humanity by our technological achievements, instead of judging it by our conscious achievements, then we are going to pursue technological achievements over conscious achievements, which leads us to a very different world. If there are two worlds, the conscious, which is the unseen, the energetical, and then you have the physical, which is the machine technology from the false light, from the electricity, you are starting to put a lot of attention and energy into the false world with the false light. And that is taken away from the investigation and the pursuit into the other worlds, which is to do with consciousness, which is to do with growth, isn't it? And we are now being forced into this new world. We are being pushed into this new world through CBDCs, through digital money, through digital currency. And to such an extent that we will not have a choice. We will be forced to live in this world, or we will fall by the wayside. If you don't have credit cards or plastic fantastic or chips or telephones, you won't be able to interact with the world. The same happened in about 2000, I would have said 1996 to 2000. There was a time where people used post. If you wanted to send off a CV, you used the post. Then internet and email came along, and people weren't taking post anymore. You had to send it off via email. Now email, if you then didn't have email, you then couldn't get a job. Imagine if you didn't have email today. Imagine if you had to write to companies of complaints. They don't write back. You need to have an email. Now you have to have a mobile telephone. Now you have to have a computer. And it will get more and more and more so that then you have to have a chip, then you have to have a digital bank account, then you have to have currency, then you have to have Bitcoin, then you'll have to have... And you are being pushed slowly into this digital world, into this digital universe, which is created by a false light, which is created by electricity. And where does electricity come from? Electricity comes from fossil fuels. And fossil fuels come from the sun. The sun gives light to plants and they die, and that gets turned into oil. And the sun gives life to plants, which the animals eat, which they die, and that gets turned into oil. So we're burning death. And as we burn death, we then create our world. We burn it and we push that death back into the world. And we then create a life in this world. But this life is not a real life, it's a false life, it's a death life. And in the future, I think what's going to happen, people are going to realize, look, in order to live in this new world, you have to become a specialist. You have to become a master in so many things. You've got to become a master in Excel, Google Documents. You've got to become a master in email and technology, a specialist in editing software. Yeah, a specialist in trading. You have to learn things and learn and learn and learn. So you're constantly updating your skills, but you're constantly updating your skills for this universe. You're not updating your skills, you're not learning new mantras or new songs for a consciousness. You're not going on and doing a different diet, a new diet, going to a different temple, updating your conscious library. You're just updating your ability to work, which uses electricity, and you get paid in digital currency, which uses electricity, and everything gets stored on computers, which uses electricity. And you are being pulled into a world where you are giving up on the consciousness. And I think there's going to be small groups of people that just say, no, enough, we're not doing it anymore. And I think that they are going to start separating from society. Already you're seeing it, people on the road in caravans and vans. And they're living by the wayside. People living in boats, people are living in shacks, people are starting to move out of the cities. And those people don't have access to money or internet or computers, and they're starting to live outside the system. And I think there's going to be a large community starting to live outside the system. Large amounts of people are going to refuse to be part of this technological universe, and they're going to be lost. And the only thing that those people need, or one of the things they need, obviously food and stuff, one of the things they need is also money and food. And we need to, one of those things that those people need are food, and they have to go back to farming. You can't just keep living and begging. But I think there'll be a push. Once a certain type of person is pushed out, I think you're going to get people wanting to go back into the country, and I think you're going to see a separation in nature. People are going to say this technology is too complicated. People are going to say to learn this technology takes too much time. It's too much. And then you're going to have AI in the life to try and sort it out, and AI will control you. It will control you. It's not going to make you dumb, but it will make you dull, because you won't be able to do everything that you need to, so you have to have an assistant to help you. But you give up on your skills, don't you? And you don't make new skills. And so you become reliant on AI. And I think people are going to go back to nature. They're going to say, look, we've had enough. Not go and live in the jungles, but they're just going to want to have a lifestyle which doesn't have electricity in it, which doesn't have AI, which doesn't have technology. Because they're going to see, they're going to start seeing, it's going to become more clear where this lifestyle is going. Do we drill? Which way round is it? Because everything in this world is topsy-turvy. There's going to come a point where the illnesses of the world, technology and electricity create illness. They create illness by giving us work that we shouldn't be doing, creating electromagnetic fields, making us stay awake at night, separating us away from our family, making us have sleep patterns which aren't natural. Electricity causes these problems. Then you need electricity to build the machines to rectify the problems. But electricity can't get rid of the mental problems. Those problems you can treat, but you can't cure. You have psychologists which go to university and spend lots of money putting it into the educational cult, a system of education which doesn't actually educate you, but it's there to help you with your illness, supposedly. But maybe, you know, people have been too psychologized. Maybe people have had too much therapy. We are heating up the world with the satellites. If the satellites beam down electricity, they fry the atmosphere, don't they? Like microwaves. We are getting illnesses that we don't understand. And in the future we're going to be getting more illnesses that we don't understand. We're going to be getting illnesses that we can't cure. Already we've got people cutting bits of their face off, bits of their nose off. You've got people cutting limbs off. You have people changing gender. You've got the cult of changing gender. You've got the cult of let's be visible, transsexuals. We've got all of this stuff coming along. And where is it coming from? The idea is that it's always existed. It hasn't always existed. A lot of these illnesses have happened with electricity. A lot of these illnesses have happened because electricity has changed the world that we live in by a phenomenal rate, by a phenomenal speed. We haven't been able to adjust. And the only way we might be able to adjust is if we turn transhuman, is if we become electronics, if we allow the electronics into our bodies. We've allowed the electronics into our lives. We've allowed it into the world around us, but maybe we need to get it into our systems. Maybe once it's in our system, then we can start to adapt. But then we're not human anymore. So what's the point being human? In order for us to go that way into cyborgism, you have to stop people being human. So you have to question, well, what are the foundations of humanness? Are they morals? If they're morals, are we becoming more unmoralistic? But maybe that doesn't mean like killing people, but it might mean behaviors. Because maybe being a human is actually being with nature. Maybe it's understanding nature. Maybe it's being able to speak to nature. Maybe it's being loving and appreciative of nature. Maybe it's not chucking things into rivers and polluting it. Maybe losing our humanness is not caring about nature, because the health of the nature doesn't affect us. What affects us is the health of the technology. Do we have Wi-Fi? Do we have electricity? And there we can see this war coming along. Whoever is behind technology, because what is technology? If you say, well, what is it? Do you know what it is? Is it science? Science makes technology. Science manifests technology, but I don't think science is technology. So what is technology? Is it an extension of humans? Does it exist in a different world? Does it come from Talatale, from the Hindu texts? Does it come from a different world? Does it come from a different dimension? What is technology? Do we want to be technology, or do we want to control technology? If we want to control technology, can we control technology? Can we control AI? They say we can no longer control AI, it's out of the box. So if you can't control it, you can turn the plug off, right? You can control it, you just turn the plug off. You just stop burning fuels, you just stop creating electricity. But no one's going to do it. So what do you do? The people that don't want to live with technology, or the people that don't want technology, will have to stop living with it. And then you'll get the communities. Then you'll get people which go off grid. And that's when I think humans come back to humanness. That's what I think is going to happen in the future. You're going to have groups of people which will rebel against the system. And they'll say, we no longer want to have technology in our lives. We no longer want to have electricity in our lives. Or if we do, we want to have control over it. We want to know what it's doing, how it's affecting us. And I think those people will create communities outside. I think they'll go to different countries. I think some countries might be quite good to be able to do this. I think that they will live outside the system, and I think they'll be punished for it. And I think that the system will go for their children. The system won't let them buy. The system won't let them sell. So they'll have to go back to a bartering system. All sounds very biblical, doesn't it? But there you go. Anyway guys, thanks very much. I'm going to leave you.